In this video, we're going to look at how we can generate valid dates using Excel's date function. And for this example, we're going to be working in our supply invoice statement. So I'm just going to click back into that. And you may recall that in the supply statement, the paid dates and the invoice dates are not actually valid dates. They are just text. And now we need to help Zara convert those to valid dates so that we can do comparisons and operations with that data. Now the function we're going to use is the date function. And we're going to start with a really simple example so you can see how it works. So clicking into S2, we're going to type equals D, A, and tab to select date. The date function requires 3 arguments: the year, the month, and the day. And each of these has to be a number rather than text. Well, our year is 2020 and a comma. All of the invoices were paid on the 4th and a comma. And this particular invoice was paid on the 17th. So I type 17. And now notice no quotes because these are just numbers. And then I press enter and there's my valid date. So that's how the date function works. But obviously we can't type in the 17th because the pay dates were different. So we need another function to extract that for us. Yep, you guessed it, it's the right function. So coming back to our calculation, we're just going to double click into S2 and then I'm going to remove that 17 because we're going to replace it with a calculation. And like I said, the calculation we need is using the right function. So I type R, I, and tab to select right. The text we're using is the paid date, then a comma, and we need the 2 characters on the right. Don't forget to close your brackets, press enter, and now we have a valid date. But if we copy it down, we can generate the paid dates for all of our invoices. That was quite a simple example because our year and our month were the same in every case. The next example we're going to look at is the invoice date. Now the year still stays at 2020, but the invoice months actually vary. So we need to have a way of somehow converting MAR to a 3 and APR to a 4. And actually we already know the answer. Interestingly, the month function will retrieve the numeric month for us from anything that looks like a date, even if it's not actually a valid date. So this is a nice little surprise. I'm going to click into R2 and I'm just going to have a look at how the month function works with this data. So I'm going to type equals MON and tab. We're going to click onto our invoice date and click enter, and it actually returns the 3, which is fantastic. Often, however, we don't actually have the luxury of something that looks like a date. It is more common to just have the month name, and if I tried that with the month function, you'll see that doesn't work because that doesn't look anything like a date. That's just really text. But there's a clever little trick you can do to get around that. So coming back into here, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to join a 1 onto the front. So I'm going to type 1 and then I'll ampersand, which is our concatenate operator. So basically I'm saying the 1st of March, I'm only worrying about a space, and curiously, that also works. So that's a really useful trick if you happen to have just the month name on a column in its own. You can convert it to a number using the month function by just joining it to a 1. Okay, let's just finish this off. So I'm going to double click back in right at the beginning. We're going to put our date function and our year is still 2020. So I'm going to type that followed by a comma. We've then got our month function, which is going to calculate our month number for us. So another comma. And then once again, we're going to need a write function. So I'm just going to type RI tab for write. The text I'm trying to work with is the invoice date. Again, I need the 2 characters on the right. Close my brackets from write, close my brackets for my date, and there's our valid invoice date. And again, we can just copy that down. So we've seen that we can use the date function to generate valid dates, provided we give it a year, a month, and a day. In the next video, we're going to start looking at how we can do mathematical operations with our date functions.